All righty. Hopping in. Welcome to the voice of college football, Missouri Tigers. Last preview show of the year, which is a little weird. Obviously, we'll do a preview for the bowl game, but as I've said a bajillion times, ESPN and Fox and the like have killed bowl season for me. So we'll see what happens there. I haven't really quite. It kind of depends on what bowl game they go to be honest. Anyway, welcome to the Voice of College Football. This is Missouri Tigers Live, episode 50. I am Zach Aurelius. I'm here every week, Monday through Friday, or Monday and Saturday. Busy off season potentially for Mizzou ahead. So let's go ahead and start tonight's show by going back and revisiting OU. I've just gotten kind of madder about the game. Obviously, I'm not going to yell and scream. Here, I was live for an hour on Saturday, and usually we don't do hour-long post games because talking to myself for an hour is not a thing I come by very easily. But I was heated, and I found myself getting madder with Eli's post-game comments. And just kind of some of the larger picture stuff with the program has really started to irritate me. After the game, of course, the first question was, why in God's green earth are you kicking at? Well, we wanted to go up 6, and the way our defense had been playing, disgusting answer. And then when asked about the punt, down 17-6. Well, we thought we could pin them, and then our offense could move back into to good position. Eli, your offense hadn't moved the ball all day. Getting to after the first drive, getting to midfield felt like an accomplishment. And they weren't able to, and it sucked, and the team sucked, and the offense sucked again. And it's becoming this theme of okay, Eli and Mizzou, their mantra as a program over the last few years, and I guess we'll get into some of the larger picture stuff as it ties back to the Oklahoma game and kind of what I've been wanting to fight against saying and thinking and doing. But if your mantra is going to be something to prove, that kind of implies like you're going to coach with an edge, coach with a pride, a passion, coach a certain way. You're going to coach aggressively. And when you get into a game like you do against Oklahoma, where you have nothing to lose, you had nothing to lose. If you win, you just ruined OU's season. You kept them out of the playoff, and you knocked off a bunch of criticisms that Eli has had here at Mizzou. Can't win big road. Can't win on the road. Can't beat highly ranked teams. Can't beat more talented teams. You would have destroyed a lot of those narratives with a win. And again, you had nothing to lose. After A&M punked you, you weren't making the playoff. You had your starting quarterback back. And yet you went into that game and you coached scared. You coach scared, which is annoying because Eli has this big and this brash personality. He likes talking crap on Twitter when he gets like a big recruiting win. He likes talking in the media. He likes taking shots. He's a big and brash coach, and I like that. A lot like Kiffin and a lot like some of these other guys. I like this. I like Mizzou is better when it has a coach. I've now better that Mizzou has a coach that has a lot of personality. Barry Odom had no personality, and his team stunk for the most part. The 2018 team was okay. And Gary hated talking, and Pinkel hated talking to the media. Now, Gary's was a great coach, so you kind of overcome it. But I've enjoyed, for once, Mizzou has a coach that loves to talk. It's fun. It's different. It's exciting. But if you're going to talk crap and you're going to behave the way he does at like SEC Media Days and all these other things, you can't then coach like a coward. And that's what this coaching staff has done the last couple years. They've coached cowardly. Again, we wanted to rely on our special teams. I talked about this Saturday. We have an update. This is according to Bill Connolly's SP+. Offense has fallen all the way to 34th, making it a pretty middling offense. And that includes still the big games against Central Arkansas and Louisiana and Kansas. Defense, 15th. It's a very good defense. I wouldn't call it an elite defense. I think they have elite pieces. I think Trotter is an elite player. I think your DNs are elite players. It is a very, very good defense on the precipice of elite. If you had an offense that complemented it, I think you would be closer to that elite status, but I can't put you in the elite when you've had a couple of the performances they had, like the Kansas game, the A&M game, and I know that the offense put them in awful situations against A&M. I understand that, but it is what it is. They don't force turnovers at a high enough rate either to really be considered an elite defense. But offense, 34th in conference play, it is so much worse. Defense, 15th. Special teams, 115th. Special teams took that game from winnable to a joke. You got down there, you got a field goal blocked. Copel had a great analysis of it. From the same spot OU got pressure the first time, and then Eli talked about how they told Robbie Meyer to speed it up a little bit, and then he didn't, and it got blocked. They score, and then you have a 33-yard punt because for some reason your punter, you went with Stanford's backup punter. Oh, and the punter that you guys ran off or weren't able to keep around in Jack Stonehouse is all ACC at Syracuse. And again, Mizzou's going to be in the portal hunting for a punter. You better get a good one. We cannot do any better. Fire Eric Lake, because the return game is no threat. It never has been a threat against real teams. The kicking game with Blake is weak in terms of punting. Field goals are its own thing. Like I don't blame Eric Lake for the field goal issues this year. I do kind of blame him for why Blake Craig is running downfield up 40 against Central Arkansas. Like that has to be coached. Hey, you're an important piece. If you get hurt, we're screwed. Now, Blake Craig will be back next year, so I'm going to assume the special teams will have a tick up. But even in the height of the Mevis era, and Harrison Mevis was a very good college kicker, they were still only around 40th in SP Plus special teams. So relying on your defense is a bit of a joke. Or not your defense, excuse me. Your special teams is a bit of a joke. When you have a chance to really put OU on the ropes. That crowd was getting out of it. That crowd was frustrated. All the pressure was on OU, and you gave them a lifeline with your crappy special teams. Just infuriating. Eli, after the game, defense gave us every chance in the world. We just didn't get it done. What game is this from? What year is this from? 2022? A lot of the same in things. I'm thinking of the Georgia game. Now, they gave up 29 points to Georgia, not 17. So maybe I should – or was it 26? Maybe I should relax on that one. But I'm thinking of the Kentucky game from that very same year. The Kansas State game when it was 17-6 or 20-6 for like the whole like middle 20 of that game, and the offense just kept going 3 and out or 7 and out or whatever. I think of the Auburn game, from that season where the defense was phenomenal and you scored 14 points in regulation. 2021, the defense was abysmal at Mizzou. Maybe the worst defense in program history. No, the 2016 defense was pretty god-awful too. But since then, Mizzou has had a really reliable defense. The 23 defense was really good. It was really aggressive, and it forced a lot of turnovers. This defense does not force as many turnovers, but Corey Batoon has done a tremendous job fixing the issues. You don't see the holes in the zones. Now, they give up plays. They gave up the big touchdown to Vanderbilt. They gave up the big touchdown to Oklahoma. Those are going to happen because good offensive coordinators can scheme things open. When you have the space that you do in college with the narrower hashes, it is easier to scheme guys wide open. It just is. That's how the sport works. That's why college games are always have more offense than NFL games. It's a lot of it is due to the hashes, and you can spread things out more and put more athletes, and even bad offenses have good athletes. And you put guys in one-on-one situations. We saw Satania in a one-on-one with Marvin Burks. Marvin Burks has played better in the second half of the year, but he got cooked. He took a bad angle and got cooked, and you give up an 80-yard touchdown. On the touchdown against Vanderbilt, Carnell kind of got held. Couple took some bad angles, and then you give up a big touchdown. And yeah, that shouldn't happen, but it does in college athletics. Like I just said, Marvin Burks has played much better the second half. The whole secondary has, including, I haven't heard Jalen Catalon's name a lot, and that's good. Including like Santana Banner and a lot of these guys, they're playing better football. But none of them are playing in the pros. Maybe Carnell, but like Marvin Burks is not a pro prospect. None of the secondary guys are day 1 or 2 picks in the NFL at this juncture. And Corey Batoon has done things are going to happen when you play elite athletes, and it has one play a game, and one play a game in each game now has sunk you because you have no ability to score. And OU is an elite defense. Make no mistake about it. But Ole Miss was able to move the ball. And Ole Miss has better players than you do and a much better quarterback. And Lane is, for all of Lane's faults and all of Lane's annoyingness with this coaching search, like this, I'll be honest with you guys, this whole coaching search thing is irritating with him. It is just driving me nuts. Ole Miss is in the midst of the best season in sport in their school's history, and you're doing this. Like, be so serious. But Lane has an ability to get guys open. Tennessee, guys, Joey Aguilar is not that good. He's not bad. Like, he's better than Bo, and he's better than Zollers is at this point, obviously. But he's not that good. They were able to move the ball in this OU defense because Heupel knows how to scheme guys open. Who else? Bama lost the game, but they moved the ball. It was just 3 turnovers did them in. That's why I love Stats of War success rate. And the success rate one, OU was the more successful offense, obviously. But it wasn't that crazy of a difference. But explosives and turnovers make football games. But when you have no ability to do anything in your pass game, and we'll go here in just a second, it's absurd. So the OU game, I was just getting madder and madder. Like, you had a real opportunity here to push away a lot of narratives around the program and yourself as a coach if you're Eli. And you folded. Like Venables called a timeout, and after the game he said, I think we showed too much of what we wanted to do in terms of a play. On a 4th and 3, I'm not a play call. I play NCAA. I don't really play Madden anymore, but of course I play NCAA. I play different games, and I've watched enough football in my life. So this may not be the case. I understand that, but you don't have another play you can go to on 4th and 3. You run like 7 plays. You run outside zone. You run a little counter, and then you have your sets of pass plays. Most of them are not creative, including your little play action QB keeper where you dump it to Norfleet in the flat. But you didn't have anything. You've run the same play on 4th and 1 or 3rd and goal or 4th and goal for the last 3 years. So 4 years, because they ran it with Cook in 22 as well, which was fine. But extremely frustrating. Extremely, extremely, extremely frustrating. And I'm going to talk more about the Drinkwitz offense here. This comes from MIZ Chris 18. So he tweeted this, and no one's really disputed it. So this is a good stat. The staple of the Drinkwitz offense is outside zone. Now that in itself is not a bad thing. That's Shanahan, a Kyle Shanahan system, and every NFL team right now is hiring. If you talked once in a hallway to Kyle Shanahan or Sean McVay, you're going to get hired. That's how the sport works now. But in the last 2 years for the Missouri Tigers, where the offense has been very middling. So versus top 15 rosters by 247's talent composite. So that would be, Alabama the last couple of years, Texas A&M, those types of games. 8 games, 122 8.8 yards per game, 3.5 yards per carry. All in all, not terrible. It's not terrible, and I'll cover why in just a second. But versus everybody else, the other 16 games they've played, 16 games, 236 yards and per game and almost 5.5 yards per carry. When teams have shut down the outside zone, they have no backup. Now, it takes a good team to back up inside zone. We're going to talk about Arkansas here in just a minute and why I think Mizzou will win this game against Arkansas unless they just melt down because of everything going on. The issue with that, because again, of course, you're not going to be as good against good teams as you are against bad teams. Duh. But with Mizzou and with the lack of a passing game that they've had basically his entire time here, the 2020 offense at times was kind of fun. The 21 offense was kind of bad. The 22 offense was abysmal. The 23 offense was awesome. The 24 offense stunk. All right, it didn't stink. That's not fair. Middling, and this year's offense stinks. If you have, and I know I talk about this every show, where if you listen to me live every week, you must be getting tired of me talking about this. But I'm tired of talking about it. You have to be explosive. You have to have some threat of explosiveness. Let's just take the flat yards per carry. They get 3 yards. That's 2nd and 7. That's a productive down. That 2nd and 7 is a fine spot to be in because you can run a lot of things off 2nd and 7, and all you need is 3-4 yards, and you're in 3rd and very manageable. You can even run it again, and now you're in 3rd and 4. Again, just based off the averages. The issue becomes is against good teams, that's all you're getting is 5-yard plays, 4-yard plays, 3-yard plays, where in college football, it is impossible to consistently put up points on 9, 10, 11, 12 play drives. You just can't do it. if you get behind the chains at all, if Mizzou under Eli and Kirby under the last 2 years gets behind the chains, it's over 9 times out of 10. They have no way of getting themselves back into competitive down and distance or to a first down if it's 3rd and 8, 3rd and 9. This is against good teams. I know against Kansas, they got away with some, but guys, Kansas isn't going to make a bowl game. They made Iowa State's offense look really good yesterday, or 2 days ago. We'll see what they do against Utah. Maybe they beat Utah. I doubt it. But so it's okay that obviously you're not averaging crazy runs. But that run percentage also, that run ability to run that outside zone goes up if you have a passing game that's respectable. I'm not asking for 80-yard bombs every other drive, but you have to be able to hit 2, 3, 4, even 5 explosives a game. And we're at a point now where Bo hit like a 16-yard throw, 17-yard throw to Josh Manning, who, for the record, I thought had a nice game. I have said things about Josh Manning in the past. After the OU game, I kind of get why he's out there. He's a good run blocker. He really is. And he's physical, and he has decent hands. I don't have the all-22. How is he as a wide receiver, whatever, like the important stuff. But they completed on like a 16-yard throw, and it was like one of those, like, you had to like, what? Holy cow, they actually made a play. That's incredible. But for now, 5 out of 6 years, you've had no explosive passing. I mean, look at the Tyler Beatty year in 2021. Like, he was putting up numbers against bad teams, and then they just kept feeding him the ball against Arkansas so he could break the record. And then against the good teams, he was completely shut down because they had nowhere else to go. That has to change next year if Eli stays. It just has to change. If Mizzou ever wants to take a step up in terms of where they are as a program, there's a few jumps you make as a program. There's bad. Like, if you're a bad program, you are where Maryland is, or Mississippi State, or Arkansas. You have to take the program from bad to middling. Think Mizzou, Brad Smith. That's what Brad Smith did. He took that program from bad to middling. That's the hardest jump, I think, to make, because you have to acquire enough players that want to play at your school. Then there's the next jump, which is middling to good. And that's what Chase did. And I would argue Chase took him from good to great. But good is the next jump. And then you go from good to great. And I would say the 2023 team was in that great category. 2024 was good. This year, I still think is a pretty good team. I think the 2025 Missouri Tigers are still a top 25 team, like on a power rating basis, in the country. That's a good spot to be in. But to go from great to elite is the hardest jump. And if Mizzou's ever going to make that jump into the elite status, where they can compete for playoff spots in this conference with the way the schedule is about to break down, you have to be able to throw the football consistently. This is from Power Mizzou. Let me pull it up. Oh man, my phone. So Mizzou averaged, since the Central Michigan and Kansas game, when Bo was throwing it all over the field, which was cool and fun, Mizzou has averaged 183 passing yards per game, never having more than 253. It doesn't matter who the quarterback is. This is how anemic this passing attack has been. Now, some of that is because Matt Zollers only had 77 against A&M and only had like 112 against Mississippi State because they just gave it to Ahmad Hardy all day, as they should have. But it's not like Bo was chucking the ball well against South Carolina and even Bama. You look at some of these receiver stats. Kevin Coleman Saturday was only the second time he went over 100 yards, and a lot of those yards came in garbage time, and they were just chucking it under 2 minutes. He would need over 200 yards just to equal what he did at Mississippi State last year. Now, Mississippi State was more of an air raid under Jeff Lebby, but it is what it is. Marquise Johnson was a backup last year and became a starter, and he's only going to get about 25 to, maybe he might end up with like 50 more yards than he did last year. Josh Manning, I've grown to really like, but he isn't putting up big numbers. Brett Norfleet is averaging 4 more yards per game, and this is after a really hot start to the year. And the passing game wasn't good last year, guys. Luther Burden only went for 61 for 760. How does Luther Burden, averaging a little over 10 yards a catch? Come on. Since 2023, they've thrown the ball for 300 yards once against FBS teams, 29 touchdowns, 14 interceptions, 218 yards per game. Against ranked teams, it falls to 168. You need to completely overhaul this passing game in the offseason. Scheme, talent, and maybe it's not the talent. I still think Jacob Peeler is really good at his job, so it might not be the talent. But it just needs to be a better evaluation of what you do in the pass game and at the receiver position. Like this pass, you cannot. If you bring this passing offense into next year, whether it's Kirby Moore or somebody else, you're going to get smoked. Teams, the good teams, and you're going to start playing more of them. Like, oh, okay, we need to shut down outside zone. Great. Now, there's teams that aren't going to be able to do it. We'll talk about one here in just a second. But, man, like, it is just not pretty right now. So that's kind of revisiting OU. It's made me think big picture on this program and what to do moving forward. So, a Battle Line rivalry is Saturday at the Voice of College Football, 2:30. I'll be live right after the game. It's the last game of the year. Mizzou, again, 8-4 is a pretty good year. It just is. Like, it's where I thought they were at the beginning of the year. So, the journey's been a little topsy-turvy, but I can't be like completely eviscerate the program for going 8-4, obviously. So you got Arkansas. They're 2-9. They're awful. Bobby Petrino they're in the midst of it. They're going coaching search. Hunter Yurachek's really running a tight search. I actually kind of respect the search they're running because no one really seems to know what they're doing. Like, if you read their websites, you'll hear, oh, Matt Campbell's involved. Oh, and then someone else will be reporting like, oh, Eric Morris is basically a lock for the job, or so-and-so, Alex Golesh really thinks that this is his job to lose, and so-and-so. But they're going through their own coaching search. It's not going to be Petrino. Like, you can't lose the games they've lost and want it to be Petrino. They're coming off a big loss to Texas. They lost 52-37 against Texas. And interestingly, in the game, they made the switch from Taylon Green to KJ Jackson. Taylon Green, who I've seen a lot of Arkansas fans like crap on. Like, Taylon Green is a really good quarterback. Has had a really nice couple years at Arkansas, despite the struggles that Arkansas has had as a program. But they made the switch, and I think it's a smart switch. If you keep KJ Jackson around. But they got carved up by Arch Manning. Jackson's only a freshman. He's going to be a redshirt sophomore next year. So he's kind of the future of their program, kind of depending on what happens. It's hard to really pencil in any of these guys when you know you're going to be hiring a new coach. If they don't hire Petrino, I don't think hiring Bobby Petrino would be a disaster over there. Now, Bobby P can still draw it up, so he's still a great offensive mind. I just don't think they're very capable. He's capable of winning football games in this era of college football. Their last win, the Arkansas Razorbacks. Come on, computer. I apologize. My computer didn't load there. No, I don't want their stats. I want schedule. Thank you. Their last win was almost 3 months ago. By the time you get to Saturday, they started out beating Alabama, A&M, and Arkansas State. But the thing with Arkansas too is they played these teams close. They lost to Ole Miss by 6. They lost to Memphis by 1. They got killed by Notre Dame. They played Tennessee really tight. They played Texas A&M really tight. Auburn, they were up and it should have won that game. Mississippi State, they should have beat. They had a real chance to beat. LSU lost by 1 with all sorts of mistakes. And then Texas the game kind of got away from them. But, they put up 37 on a Texas defense. That's pretty good. Now they were down 52-23, and Texas has a big game this weekend, obviously against A&M. So they kind of took their foot off the gas, but Arkansas has the ability to score points. My biggest question for Arkansas this weekend, and we'll pivot back to Mizzou here in just a second. What is Arkansas playing for? It's very apparent that it should be apparent that Petrino is not coming back next year. He's just not. He's not going to be coaching Arkansas. You had your big, lead up of rivalries. Arkansas considers LSU a big rival, or they consider Texas a big rival. Now those schools, I don't know how much they consider Arkansas a big rival, but that's kind of, whatever. Same way Mizzou does with OU. It's fine. That's not to make fun. It's just, and you lost one by a point and then you got crushed. Like, if Mizzou was maybe playing for a playoff spot, maybe you get up for that. It's senior day. What's the crowd in Fayetteville going to really look like? It's not on Black Friday this year. It is on Saturday. I understand Arkansas fans. Look, I completely understand if Arkansas fans don't want to go to this game and chill at home and watch what's going to be an awesome Saturday. I understand. And watch their team play, but I would totally get it. It's been a tough year for Arkansas. It's been a tough decade for Arkansas, and with a new coach, you have a chance to bring that program back from the depths, man. Like we've gotten to a point in college football where I'm pretty sure we're going to go to the Super Conference. The Big Ten, SEC will just kind of combined, form like a 30, 36 team Super Conference. Arkansas wasn't going to get left behind in the dust. They have too much money. But if they fall too far behind, there's a real chance they get invited into that league to be the team that everybody beats the crap out of, because you have to find ways for Alabama and LSU and make some of your middle tier teams like a Missouri look good. And that would be Arkansas. That's why I kind of think North Carolina football is going to get brought into this party, because you need teams that aren't going to be good, as awful as that is to say. But it's been a tough decade for Arkansas. I mean, a high watermark has been 8 wins. Mizzou with a win Saturday is gonna win 8 games, and we're all a little like, I don't know if disappointed, I guess would be the right word. And the reason that the Arkansas is this defense is abysmal. Against Texas, Texas has no run game. 28 carries for 97 yards is an explosive day of running for the Texas Longhorns. This is a game you should be able to just give Ahmad Hardy, Jabal Roberts the ball and take off. This Arkansas defense is god awful. I mean, if we want to look at what they did against Kawan Lacey, 17 carries for 44 yards. He did pretty well. Now, if Taylon Green's not going to play, you don't have to worry about his legs defensively, because Taylon Green presents a lot of problems with his legs. And a lot of it's been their pass defense. Kind of going through the stats. Like, look at LSU. They only gave up 23 points to LSU, and LSU is a pretty similar offense to you. Van Buren went 21 of 31 for 221. They couldn't. Their top back averaged 5.5 yards per carry. This needs to be a game you just kind of take the will out of them. Go up early, make them like the key for Mizzou in this game is going to be go up early, make them quit, and win this game by couple scores, 2-3 scores. How much you win by does not matter. I know Eli takes this game very seriously. Blowing out Petrino, I'm sure for him would be fun. I just don't see there's nothing changes if you win this game 42-24 or 31-21. Nothing changes. You win by a point, you win by 50. It doesn't matter. But this is a game Mizzou should win. Give the ball to your two stud running backs. Arkansas is not a good football team. They have nothing to play for. Look, I don't think potentially moving to 3-9 is going to be a reason that you lose this football game. Now, am I a little worried about some of the distraction on the Mizzou side? Yes. But Eli normally does a pretty good job of getting his guys ready. Sorry, the Blues had almost a goal there. Eli does usually a pretty good job of getting his guys up to play, even when the season's over. I thought they played hard last week. I just think this is a game your offensive line should eat. Your defense should play really well. You have a kid making they're going to probably start. I haven't seen. I assume they're starting KJ Jackson. And you will have every opportunity to win this football game against Arkansas. I am predicting they'll beat Arkansas. I am predicting a final score of 34-24. I think you force their quarterback into make a couple mistakes, set up a couple easy scores. You're able to run the ball and you get out of Dodge. And you wait. You wait a week to see who's transferring, and ultimately we kind of wait for Sunday, Monday when coaching decisions are made. I'm going to talk about it here in just a minute because by the time I go live next Monday, we may already know what's going to happen with Eli. So that's kind of my preview for Arkansas, guys. Arkansas is a horrible football team. They're completely going to be restarting their program come Monday. A bunch of their people are reporting that we're going to know who Arkansas has hired quickly after the game, and we may even know before the game. Like Virginia Tech hired Franklin. We may know beforehand. So we're just going to kind of have to wait and see on that front for Arkansas, and we'll talk more about that here in whenever it happens. Because who Arkansas hires directly affects Mizzou. Because you're going to play Arkansas every year. You're going to recruit a lot against Arkansas. Eli, if he stays, loves recruiting in Arkansas. So who Arkansas hires is really important to the Missouri Tigers program. But as far as an update, Saturday, I said I didn't really know. I still don't. I kind of have a theory on what's going on. So I forget forgive me. I forget which Fox Sports analyst said, and they would know. That's the TV network. SEC's ESPN, Big Ten's Fox. It's like freaking politics. Has said Eli, the deal at Penn State is kind of fallen through for Eli. I don't fully believe that. I have a theory that there's too much smoke about Kalen DeBoer in Alabama that there has to be at least a little something to it, at least on the Penn State side. If Alabama loses to Auburn and Bama misses a 12-team playoff for the second year in a row and misses out on the SEC championship game, I think there is a very real possibility DeBoer looks for an escape hatch and Penn State would be a really good escape hatch. Now, I don't think they're going to lose, and I think they'll be fine. So I think Eli is kind of a fallback option on that. I'm leaning now more towards he's going to stay. which means a lot of changes will have to come. We'll talk about that, over the course of the offseason. We have a long offseason ahead of us. We have one Saturday one real Saturday of college football left, guys. Like, let's just enjoy it, But I am leaning more towards he's going to stay. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if he announces tomorrow that he's going to Auburn. Like, it's just the way this offseason has worked. You just don't know. There's still so many dominoes that have to fall, like Kiffin, because wherever Kiffin doesn't go, unless it's, is good, he's going to be an option there. I know Auburn's really pushing hard after Summerall, but Eli really likes Auburn. He thinks very highly of that program. It's been evident in the 2 years, the 3 times they've played him. And he's talked about that program. He did coach at Auburn, for God's sakes. Gus still has a very high regard of Auburn, and Eli is a Gus guy. So we'll just kind of have to wait and see. Of course, as always, I will be live right here at the Voice of College Football Missouri. If something breaks during the day, I have to work, but when I come home, I will set a stream and I will try to be live, before like 6 o'clock, and we'll go through. Like I've said now for a couple of weeks, I do have a list in a Google Doc of about 10 to 15 names I would be really, really interested in. And some of them are guys I would be excited about Missouri hiring. Again, no such thing as a sure thing here in college football. And some would be like, okay, that's a fine hire. Like, we'll see what happens. But because I'm leaning towards, I think Eli stays. I think you have to start Matt Zollers on Saturday. You have to. Bo will not be in this program next year. He just can't be. There is a year 2 jump with transfer quarterbacks. I understand that. But if you're going to take the step and you're going to even be competitive, and maybe not just next year, but you're going to have a nice little nucleus if Eli does stay of Olubade. You'll have Zollers, you'll have Hardy, Marquise Davis might still be around. Like, it can kind of depend on some of these backup guys. And if you're going to try and be competitive, not just 26, but 27, you have to play this kid Saturday and let him throw the ball. You have nothing to lose. If you lose this game, yeah, it sucks, and it's going to be embarrassing. But I think your run game, kind of like the Mississippi State game, your run game is good enough where I don't think losing this game is a real possibility. I just don't. You have to start Matt on Saturday. We don't need to see Bo. We just don't. You can cover for him. He re-aggravated his ankle, but we just don't. We don't need to see him. Let the kid play. Let him throw 20 to 25 times. Like, this Arkansas defense is abysmal. See what you have, because if you're going to take any sort of leap, it has to be through the passing game, and that's not going to happen with Bo. It's just not. Even if Bo comes back next year and is better, he's not going to all of a sudden become a NFL or all SEC caliber of passer. And again, I'm not saying all SEC is amazing. Like, Brady Cook was borderline all SEC in 2023. And Brady Cook was very good in 23, but he wasn't amazing. So that's kind of where I am at with that. That's the main thing. And I think he's going to stay. So now when he announces tomorrow that he's going to Arkansas, he's going to Auburn, you can blame me. You are listening to Missouri Tigers Live. We just did go about 45 minutes. Hey, buddy. You want to say hi? You come here? No? You're going to be shy, boy? You're going to be shy? This is Ollie. He's my noisy cat. My other one's a shy kitty. What, dude? Yeah, that's what I thought. He's my ferret. We'll start getting into, I think it's time. I think after about 45 minutes, I think we can talk more national and SEC news. We'll start within the SEC. This past weekend was SEC Cupcake Week. I'm really tired of hearing about, like, Dave Portnoy and the Fox guys and like how this week is ridiculous for the SEC. I understand it to a bit, but at the same time, Ohio State has not played a team with a winning record in like 2 months. The schedule in these other conferences and is an example. Michigan had to play Maryland. Like Maryland is not that much better than Eastern Illinois. They're just not. Like obviously Maryland would beat Eastern Illinois like 50-10, but for Michigan, the difference between the two games is not that crazy. So if you watched any SEC football, non-Missouri, Oklahoma, like I'm proud of you. I don't know how you did it. Texas A&M beat the crap out of Samford. Charlotte covered against Georgia. I want to know what the new clock rules, how many teams actually do cover like 40-point spreads. Georgia was like, hey, get out of it. It was an escalated inter-squad. Vanderbilt beat the crap out of Kentucky. That was cool for them. We talked about Texas, Arkansas, Florida embarrassed themselves against Tennessee. Auburn, why the hell did they not play Deuce Night all year? And LSU escapes Western Kentucky. But other than that, and South Carolina with a fairly dominant showing against Coastal. And Coastal's been playing really good football over the last 2 months or so. But this weekend, like this is the weekend that makes college football special from a national and local perspective. As the sport goes more and more to try to be more like the NFL, and it sucks, and they kill everything that made college football fun from regionality and rivalries, and now everything's just so focused on a trophy that only like 18 programs can win. Things are less special. I'm thinking of like the 2023 Michigan-Ohio State game. Winner goes to the playoff and has a very real shot at a title. Loser played Mizzou in the Cotton Bowl. So you have Ole Miss, Mississippi State. I'm tired of this Lane Kiffin crap. Just announce it, man. Like Ole Miss, I understand you can't do this, but like I kind of wish Ole Miss was able to go, here's your contract extension. Sign it or you're fired. And we'll run with whoever. Like this is the best season in Ole Miss history. They're entering a rivalry game, and Mississippi State is having a very surprising. They're only 5-6, but their win loss I think was like 3.5. They're having a very nice year considering the expectations. And if they win, and Lane's been known to cork these kind of games. I'm thinking of Florida last year or Kentucky last year. They make a bowl game, and that's cool for them. But no, all the attention is on Lane. Why is this game not on Thanksgiving? Is it because of the stupid freaking NFL? Probably. But that game's at 11 a.m. I'll be at work. I'll probably be watching. We're not busy on Black Friday. At 2:30, Georgia Tech, man. Like Georgia Tech, damn. This game could have been really, really cool Saturday if Georgia Tech was able to beat Pitt. But Pitt, since they made the quarterback switch, has been really good. And now Georgia Tech, you're playing to beat your rival, which is enough, I think, to get up for a game like this, especially when you are Georgia Tech. But we saw last year them go into Stanford and play a crazy, like 9 overtime game. This year, the game's at Bobby. Oh, right. No, it's not. It's at the Falcons Stadium. Congratulations on your home game, Georgia Tech. You're going to play in a soulless NFL stadium in front of a bunch of red seats. I'm sure it'll feel amazing, just like Bobby Dodd. Although Bobby Dodd didn't help you too much last Saturday, stopping Mason Heinschel in that Pitt offense. I would expect Georgia. Georgia's starting to peak at the right time. Like they've been really sloppy at times this year. I'm thinking of the loss to Bama where they just no-showed for a half. They didn't exactly set the world on fire defensively against Tennessee. Kind of slugged out against Georgia. Came back offensively, looked great against Ole Miss. Squeaked by a bad Florida team right before they quit. But over the last month, since that Florida game, they beat the crap out of Mississippi State on the road. They beat the crap out of Texas at home, and then they beat. They had a inter squad against Georgia or against Charlotte. We'll see what they do against a Georgia Tech team that's going to be game and that's going to be playing. Look, no matter what, Brent Key's going to get those guys to play hard. So, and then you got Texas A&M and Texas. Look, I don't like either of these programs, but it's cool that they're back and they're playing this on that Friday night. I think back to like Colt McCoy versus Gerard Johnson in 2009. I'm thinking back to the Case McCoy, Ryan Tannehill 2011 War. And then I'm thinking of like last year's game that was just an ugly crap show because that's where I first thought like Marcel Reed couldn't play. A&M's 2.5-point favorite. A&M should win this game. Texas had to be really irritated with Cincinnati and BYU on Saturday. Not Cincinnati, BYU, Cincinnati and Kansas State. Because if both of those teams win, like Texas would have a path. They would have moved up to 15. They would have needed Vanderbilt to lose. They would have needed Miami to lose to Pitt. They would have needed some things to happen, probably Alabama, but there would be a path. Now there's really no path. You're just kind of playing for a 9-3 team or a 9-3 record. And that's what you deserve. You lost by a ton to Florida. You got crushed by Georgia. See if you can ruin your rival's perfect season and maybe knock them out of the SEC champ. I think they're out if they lose, even with tiebreakers. And if you're A&M, like your first win over Texas since what 2000. Well, you got them in 2010, so it hasn't been that long. They only played twice since, but still, it'd be an accomplishment, especially to go into DKR and do that. That'd be fun for them. Really excited to watch that one, to be honest. Saturday morning, Kentucky, Louisville. I don't know about you guys. Like I read and watch a lot of college football, and I see a lot of things on like Twitter and all these other places. That is the pettiest rivalry in sports, and I kind of love them. Like if you see any of their beat writers, like 247 on both sides, or like KSR for in Kentucky, they take a lot of shots at each other, and it's kind of fun. And it's Louisville with a loss. Kentucky makes a bowl game with a win, which would be very surprising considering how their season started. And Louisville would fall to 7-5, which would be back-to-back not so great years for Jeff Brom at Louisville, considering where the expectations were set after that first magical year where they went undefeated or with one loss and beat Notre Dame into the playoff. Clemson, South Carolina. Look, that game means nothing, but it's going to be nasty. Those two teams hate it. Like, this is what makes this weekend fun. Like, and why we've gone away from so much of it. Like, Clemson, South Carolina. Clemson, you're going to hear probably Dabo talk about how, like, this is the toughest team he's ever had if they do win this game. But these two teams hate each other, and I bet you there'll be a couple scuffles. LSU plays Oklahoma. Oklahoma winning in. I'm looking at ESPN. The total's 36.5. 10.5 points. Oklahoma's a 10.5 point spread. So what's the implied there? 23-13. That's about right. All right, fair enough. It's not as bad as I thought when I saw it. But goodness gracious, that has a chance to be a really ugly football game. And if you're Oklahoma, win, you're in, and you probably are hosting, and you might even be hosting like a fun Notre Dame team. So all the pressure's on Oklahoma in that game. I do think they'll win it, but it should be a lot of fun. Vanderbilt, Tennessee. Vanderbilt, same spot as Texas. They have to be so ticked at Cincinnati and Kansas State right now. Both of them lost very winnable games. If you win both of those, you bump up to number 12. And you're like Miami loses to Pitt, very possible. The thing with the playoff, and people are not talking about this enough, is you don't have to get into the top 12. You have to get into the top 10. Oh, always on camera. Hey, buddy. You want to yell for everybody? That's what I thought. You have to get into the top 10 because the ACC and the G5s are getting 11 and 12. So, but Vanderbilt, my heart break. Sincerely, that really sucks. Like, you're having a dream season. You might go 10-2. Now, if you lose to Tennessee, it doesn't matter. But you might go 10-2, and you're going to be left out because them's the breaks, man. Like, you shouldn't. You lost to Bama and Texas. Like, no one, that sucks. But please, God, we don't need more teams in the playoffs so we can get like a Vanderbilt in there. We just don't. I talked about Mizzou, Arkansas for 25 minutes. Florida State. What in the hell is Florida State? Just next time, and I won't touch on this in national news. Florida State, just tell us you're broke. You don't have to like give us a long, super creative statement. Just say, hey, we're broke. It is what it is. We're Southeast Nebraska now. Like, okay, cool. Thanks. And then Auburn, Alabama, obviously the stakes in that game. Alabama wins, they're in. Auburn wins, they're in a bowl game. And they knocked Alabama out of the playoff. So it's fun that game's at night as more and more of these games get away from night. That's SEC news. National news last week, not a great slate. Kind of touched on Georgia Tech. That was really the only like crazy thing that happened. We have a couple win and in scenarios. SMU to their conference title games. SMU and Virginia, they beat Virginia Tech and Cal. They're in, and so I've seen it mentioned a couple times. Like if Mizzou were to have a coaching search, like Tony Elliott should be a name they look at. No, so I can tie this back to Mizzou. Tony Elliott, and they've done a really nice job this year. It's like I said before, and this goes in pro sports too. It's really cool. Yeah, maybe not so much pro sports. When schools like Virginia or, I'm thinking of Arizona a couple years ago, see teams that are not at the precipice of the sport and they start having these dream seasons and everything goes their way. Every little break goes their way. And for Virginia, everything has gone their way. Make no mistake about it. And it's awesome. Like, who's mad about it unless you're, a Virginia Tech fan? Virginia's 2 wins away from the play. Virginia football is 2 wins away from the playoff. That's so cool. But you got to win those 2 games, and you're going to have to beat SMU or Pitt probably in the ACC title game. Arizona didn't finish a couple years ago. Virginia has a chance to finish this, and it's so cool when these programs like get their dream season and they take advantage. Yeah, can't wait for that game. Can't wait to watch both those games. Like Saturday is a 4 TV day for me. Also, on going back to Friday, we have Utah, Kansas. Thursday, we have Memphis, Navy. That's an interesting game for the AAC. Navy wins. I think they're a Tulane or UNT loss. Utah, Kansas. Utah needs to win that game by about 100. The issue they're going to have is the teams that are likely to fall behind them are Alabama with a loss to Auburn. Okay, but then you probably need to find a way to jump like a BYU if they lose to Texas Tech, and you lost to BYU. So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens there. Iowa, Nebraska in the We Don't Care About You Bowl. Winner moves to 8-4, loser 7-5. Matt Rule going 7-5, even with a backup, would be really disappointing. 8-4 at Iowa is, yeah. Looking at the MAC, who cares? But Kent State winning a 5th game would be really impressive. Air Force, Colorado State. That's just sad. Underrated game, San Diego State, New Mexico. Sean Lewis versus Jason Eck out in the Mountain West. Like a really underrated football game. That's a fun football game between 2 teams who or San Diego State could win the Mountain West. Look at the Mountain West standings real quick, actually. TheMW.com. So San Diego State win, and they're in New Mexico. I don't know how the tiebreakers work, but New Mexico could get into that conference title game with a win. Like, that would be fun. So it's a super fun and interesting football game that I know a lot of people don't really care about. Temple and North Texas. North Texas needs a big win to kind of hang around in the playoff hunt and then win obviously the AAC title next week, or if they win. Temple 5-7 their first year under the guy they took from Sam Houston State. Not too shabby. That's a fun little game. Boise State, if you fall to 7-5, man, that's just such a fall off. Indiana, Purdue's going to win by 100, or Indiana's going to win by 100. That's just Friday, and then you get into Saturday, Michigan, Ohio State. If Michigan wins, it is going to be very hard to not put them over Alabama or whoever gets the 10 spot. Like BYU should be cheering for Ohio State. Utah should be cheering for Ohio State. Some of these teams that are kind of towards the back, Miami, towards the back part of that bracket that are like, hopefully we can get this 10 seed and get in. Michigan wins that game, they're going to make it. So, yeah. I don't think they will. But just a thing to keep an eye on. Miami goes to Pitt. We talked about both those teams. Houston has a chance to finish up a really nice year, 9 wins. They had a really disappointing loss last week to TCU, but still. Baylor, chance to get to bowl eligibility in that little rivalry. They're also keeping their coach. Kansas State, chance to get to bowl eligible against Colorado. My thing with rivalry too is why is like Kansas State not playing or Utah BYU? Why? UCF BYU, like why is it UCF BYU? Missouri State with a chance to win 8 games like that. Missouri State and Mizzou having the same season would be kind of crazy. And then Oregon, Washington on the CBS game of the day, like that. Like, look, man, at 2:30, you're going to need 4 screens going for Oregon, Washington, LSU, Oklahoma, Vanderbilt, Tennessee, and Missouri, Arkansas. If you're a Mizzou fan, if you're not a Mizzou fan, you're probably not watching Missouri, Arkansas. I understand that. But I'm even intrigued by like Wisconsin, Minnesota, because Wisconsin, with a win, have won 3 in a row since they said we're bringing back Luke Fickell. And they're like 5-7 with the schedule they had, especially after like they got brutalized by Iowa. Look, man, they'll have some momentum going into next year. It's not much, but that means something. And so credit to that program and credit to Luke Fickell and those kids for turning it around. Penn State Rutgers. Why is that a rivalry game? But anyway, winner goes to a bowl. That's fun. Wake Forest, keep the name Jake Dickert in mind. If you follow me on Twitter, you know I talk a lot about Jake Dickert. A win for Wake, give them 9 wins. Cincinnati TCU in the winner can probably say they had a nice season. Loser, talked about Virginia Tech, Maryland, Michigan State, and 2 teams that should fire their coaches but probably aren't. USC should get a nice win over UCLA. Illinois Northwestern has suddenly become really interesting. Like Illinois had a really good year last year, and if you lose to Northwestern going 7-5, like obviously it's not going to cost like Bielema his job or anything, but that's really disappointing. Tulane into the AAC title game and into a playoff, maybe their own version of a playoff game with a win over 1-10 Charlotte, North Carolina, NC State. It would have been interesting if UNC had a chance to get to a bowl, but they just don't. UNLV, I believe, is into the Mountain West with a win. And then that's it. And then Notre Dame Stanford. It is kind of hilarious at Notre Dame Stanford, a game that means so much. Now, Notre Dame's going to win by 100. I understand that, but a game that does have pretty big stakes is that late in the day is really funny. But it just kind of is what it is. So that's this week, man. Like we'll be back next month. We'll be back Saturday to talk about Mizzou against Arkansas. If we have any updates before then, we do have 6 days. There's going to be a lot of time. You're going to hear a lot of things. Again, I think Eli stays. And truthfully, I know I complained about him earlier. That is a good thing for the Missouri Tigers. So you all have a lovely week. Enjoy your Thanksgiving. I'll eat a lot of good food. Lord knows I am. Enjoy the time with your family. And then, guys, look, it's a hell of an NFL slate. If that's your thing, I don't understand why it would be, but that's fine. Hell of a college football slate. Feast week in college basketball is always fun. This is a fun week of sports. So enjoy the time with your family. Enjoy the time, for your holiday, if you get work off, or if you don't get work off, enjoy not doing anything. And I will see you on Saturday, guys. You can like and subscribe. You can listen to our show, any audio platform you choose. And yeah, man, it's been super fun doing this for another year. We'll get to once we're in off-season mode next Monday. So I will see you all Saturday, and I hope you have a wonderful week.